Hello, my name is Brian of Hessens County, and I'm glad that you could join us again today for another TTRPG Talk. This series discusses tabletop role-playing games and related materials, suggests ideas for your own games, and takes a look at some of my own materials. Today, we are going to be adding to our SRD series with Diversified by Laura, aka Mama Newt of Lucky Newt Games. Originally known as the 3D6 Diversify, or 3D6D for short. This is a light game engine designed to facilitate play with special characters that have special powers that break the usual rules of your game world, like, for example, superpowers, magic, or hyper-advanced technologies. To allow for this, this is built around not one, but actually two different sort of dice systems that work together that your player will get to choose which one they're going to utilize when they do an action. The first of these dice systems in Diversified is built around two six-sided dice for when you are not utilizing one of these powers or hyper-advanced tech or whatever it is that you have in your game world. Simply roll and then compare the total results to a target number. In the normal situation, the target number is a 7, which of course creates a success chance, considering we're utilizing a pool of 2d6, of about 57%. However, you are encouraged to be flexible depending upon the difficulty of the action, adding or subtracting 2 from this target. This creates a possible range of success from about an 83% chance whenever your TN is, like let's say at 5, up to if your TN is 9, then your chance of success has been dropped down to about 28%. However, a character in Diversified also has a power pool that they can use to fuel their powers that we mentioned previously. Whenever you are using them, the player would instead roll 3 six-sided dice, hence the 3d6 in the original name, and then choose the two dice that they wish from the 3 to be the total result. This resulting number, instead of going up against a target number of 7, is instead compared against a much more complicated range of results that you can see showing on the screen right now that has a set of ranges of success or failure ranging from a failure with consequences all the way up through success and also success with bonuses. Feel free, of course, to pause if you wish to take a closer read of the specific numbers and everything. I'm not going to go over them right at the moment. The most important thing there is to note, pulling from this, though, is that the player actually has a very high chance of some form of success when intentionally choosing the 2 highest dice. And you also have about a 68% chance of suffering absolutely no consequences when doing so. However, you might not always want to choose your 2 highest dice that you roll. One reason is because the number that you use for this powers roll is actually deducted from the pool from your power pool, which usually starts somewhere between 30 to 60 points. You can continue to push yourself even after this pool has been drained. However, each roll that you do after the pool has been emptied increases the target ranges by +1. So as you can see, just like with some other systems, this can actually push the chances of success outside of your possible range of like it can push success. Doing it just a couple of times can actually push success so high that it would make it highly unlikely for you to roll it or even make it impossible. You can also sometimes use that third unused die for mechanical reasons, like adding that number to recharge your pool if you roll or if your GM decides to give you a bonus, or if you are using your character's background or experience while in the process of completing this action. Unlike many games that reward success with character development, diversified games create growth by responding to your character's failures. Whenever your character experiences a consequence as a result of a roll, your player can choose to respond by developing an experience. The SRD encourages you to allow your characters to develop up to 1 to 3 experiences, either during the course of play, like in a one-shot, or at the end of sessions in an extended play opportunity like a long-term campaign. These experiences, as I mentioned, do allow you to essentially create a bonus for yourself. Basically, you're drawing on lessons that you learned from your past failure to make future successes a little bit easier, or at least make them less taxing on yourself, like learning a special technique to make doing this thing easier. You could also potentially utilize an experience in other ways, like mitigating a consequence. So, for example, if a consequence that comes up is very similar to the consequence that you suffered previously when you gained this experience, then like an example that's given in the SRD is, let's say someone is using some sort of super strength or something, and they end up injuring themselves because they push themselves too hard. Well, maybe you received some special training on how to pick stuff up more appropriately, like don't use your back too much and stuff like that. Lift from your knees. That actually that could potentially make it a little bit easier for you to lift heavy things, or mitigate the consequences of trying to push yourself a little bit too hard. You could also potentially utilize experiences in a similar capacity for story related reasons. Backgrounds, which I touched on a tiny bit previously, are very similar to experiences, except instead of them being things that you develop during play, these are things. This background is something that you would have picked before the game started. Each character gets one background, which usually would be something along akin to like a class or a group of skills or some major hobby, something that that really defines a significant amount of the skills and abilities that your character already had prior to the beginning of the game. To kind of dive into the the technical and legal elements of developing a diversified game, it is licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike International 4.0 license. This is important to note because this means that you can create and release commercial derivative works, because it is a Creative Commons Attribution license. However, they also need to be released under the same license as the SRD itself, because again, it says share alike. So you can't use this and then release your game under like a regular copyright, or release it under a different sort of commons license, like the Creative Comrades license or something along those lines. It has to be this specific license and language. The SRD's itch store also does contain templates. These are mainly geared towards sort of like one-page games based on the Diversified SRD itself. These exist for Word, OpenOffice, Canva, as well as there being like a sort of PDF layout template. There are also several versions of a Diversified logo that are available, like different colors and stuff like that. So that was Diversified. Thank you again for joining us today. I really think that this is an SRD that you could potentially utilize pretty well for, well, again, it's intended for simulating unified powers that that all of the characters that are in the game have. Again, that generally break the basic physics of your game. One thing I really like is the fact that it does encourage you to potentially allow your characters to the chance to develop the experiences for their characters in the middle of play, because obviously a lot of games don't necessarily do that. So it really creates a very sort of organic and player-driven character development, but that character development itself can be a part of the storytelling. Because, you know, if you want, so in the example we mentioned previously where your character goes to a trainer and then the trainer helps you figure out, better ways to avoid the problem that you encountered last time. Well, where did you encounter this trainer? Who is this trainer? How did you convince this trainer to help you? All that kind of stuff. That could be a part of an element in the storytelling that really could help flesh out, especially like downtime elements in your game, either like during the before or after of a mission that your characters might have been on. So just something to think about. Again, as usual, links to everything can be found in the doobly-doo down below. And remember to rate your itch purchases and have a good day. If you'd like to see more material on this topic, please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel or check out the blog at hessenscounty.com.